Hello and welcome to the DeTullio and Durger College Sports Show. I am Joe. With me is Rob Durger, as always, here to talk about college football and college basketball. This week we're going to focus, for college basketball at least, on the conferences we expect to get one team in the NCAA tournament, one bid leagues, and then football we'll do the normal stuff, recapping last week, previewing this week, making our picks and everything like that. First, Rob, how you doing?
Doing great. About 2 weeks away from college basketball, and college football is in full swing now.
Yeah, it's October and November are some of the busiest sports months in the world, and it's honestly great. You got the World Series coming up in November, you got college basketball coming up in November, you already have the football kind of winding down its regular season for college football, and for NFL getting near the end. It's amazing time of year at this point of year. We'll get started today with our basketball previews. There is a lot going on with the FBI investigation to kind of start things off. A lot of different universities and things are implicated, but it's still unclear what, if any, sanctions are going to happen with that trial. So we'll see what happens with that. You know, Kansas has been implicated, but for now I'll preview the conferences. Not that any of these teams in these conferences have been mentioned, but just in future, we'll preview the conferences as if, I guess, we don't know what's going to go on, since last year nothing happened, even though we thought something might have happened. But we'll start our conference previews with the America East. Last year had the number 16 seed UMBC go on that magical run. Rob, do you see them coming out of the American East this year?
I don't this year. I think they'll be pretty solid, but they lost too much from last year, and obviously that miracle run. Out for the past decade or so, I think it's 10 straight years of 20-plus wins for the Catamounts. They returned 3 out of 5 starters. So I see them coming on top in the regular season again this year.
I do too. I don't think it's going to be particularly close either. I think they have a good handle on this. They got Ernie and Everett Duncan coming back, and then Anthony Lamb, who got injured for a lot of last year, but him coming back is a huge key. He should be, if not the player of the year in the conference, very, very close. So I'm going Vermont as well in the AEC. We'll move on. Atlantic Sun now. This is a conference that has had some postseason success a couple years ago now, but teams like Florida Gulf Coast were in that, and then Mercer was in the conference and now is not. But they do have some decent teams that have done some stuff in the past.
Yeah, and they also have a new addition to the conference in Liberty, who figures to be at the top half, kind of in that mix. But I'm going with Lipscomb to win. Florida Gulf Coast has kind of been slipping a little bit since that Sweet 16 run seems further and further away. The Bison have Garrison Matthews, is probably the best player in this league. A couple other juniors and seniors, very old, very experienced lot. So I got them winning it.
I do too. We're agreeing already too much on this, but Lipscomb looks like the team to beat in this conference. They do also have North Alabama, who's a new Division I school, so that's always nice to see. Obviously not able to qualify for the NCAA tournament or anything, but you're right about...
They scheduled brutally for their first year, too.
Did they really?
Yeah.
It's going to be a rough year for them, but more power to them. I always like the new teams coming in. But both have Lipscomb coming out of the A-Sun. We'll go to next, the Big Sky Conference. Rob, who do you have coming out of that one?
I think this is one of the easier ones. Montana has been toward the top of this for a while now. Everything's lining up for them. They got 4 out of 5 seniors in their starting lineup, including Ahmad Rory and Michael Ogine. Best backcourt in the league. I think they'll win it pretty easily.
I think they will too. 26-8 last year. You mentioned 4 returning starters. Also get a couple key reserves back. So, I mean, I think you're right. This is a pretty easy one to pick. They should be coming out of the Big Sky this year. Now on to the Big South. This year, kind of up in the air a little bit for the Big South.
Yeah, and they get a new addition this year in Hampton, moving from the MEAC, and I think it was kind of a controversial move. I think they'll be toward the top of the conference, but I'm going for a repeat from the Radford Highlanders, another team that was on top of the league last year, made it to March, has a lot of seniors and juniors in that lineup this year, so I got the Highlanders.
I thought about Radford, but I did want to go with a different-esque team for this. I'm going Winthrop. Same number of returning starters for both these teams with 3. At that point, it's just a matter of who can get the job done. Last year, they're 19-12. Radford was 23-13. Obviously, not too far off on that on those records. So I'm going to take Winthrop in the Big South Conference. Big West is next on our list. Rob, who do you got?
I think it's going to be an interesting race. I think it's going to be down to UC Davis and UC Irvine, but I'm going with the North California and taking UC Davis, another team very experienced with 4 seniors in the lineup. TJ Shorts, the second, is only 5'9", but one of the best players in the comp. I think they got a little bit more size than most of the Big West is going to be able to deal with.
I went with UC Irvine on this one, the Anteaters. 5 returning starters from last year. That's hard to do. They went 18-17 overall. I mean, that's not too terrible considering the conference they're in. They're not supposed to go win those big non-conference games. They just have to improve a little bit. Maybe hope UC Davis regresses a little bit from their 22-11 record. I'm going UC Irvine. All right, Colonial Athletic Association up next.
So we've seen kind of dominant teams emerge and fall off pretty quickly with UNC Wilmington, then College of Charleston last year. This year, I think it's going to be the Northeastern Huskies. They've been kind of using their Boston connections to recruit at a high level for the past couple years. They got Vasa Pusica from Serbia, who's a senior, probably the best player in the conference for them. They've been kind of ascending for a while, and I think this is the year they're going to break through and win it.
I'm going to go with the team that you really liked last year, and it does return a lot of scoring at least, in Charleston. Grant Worrell, 18.6 points per game. He's back. Jarrell Brantley, 17.3 points per game. He's back. After that, you just kind of got to fill in some role players and hope you can play some defense. That's not always the easiest thing to do, but it's easier to fill in a role player than add some stars. So I'm going to go Charleston in this conference for this year. I do like Northeastern as well, though. CUSA, next one on our list here. Some interesting teams in here, including Marshall, who scored that big upset in the tournament last year.
Yeah, this is probably the one conference that we're talking about that I wouldn't be too surprised if they got a second team. Almost did last year with Middle Tennessee. A lot of people are really high on Western Kentucky. Obviously, when you get a 5-star center coming into this conference, it's gonna bring a lot of attention. But I'm actually going with the Thundering Herd to capitalize on that tournament run last year. I just absolutely love John Elmore and CJ Burks. They can sling it from deep, unlike a whole lot of other teams. They lost Penova, which kind of makes me a little nervous, but they do have a 6'10" Croatian named Ante Susic, so replacing their big Bosnian with a big Croatian, I think will give them an advantage down low and against most of the teams in this conference. So I think it's going to be a very tight race between those two, but I got the Thunder and Herd.
I've got Western Kentucky. I'm going to go with Rick Stansbury. His recruiting has been on point for Western Kentucky the last couple of years. Even though Mitchell Robinson never worked out, they got some good guys here, and I think they should be able to get it done. Do agree with you. It's kind of a 2-team race there at the top. Seeing who can fight it out and win it is going to be interesting to see this year, especially in the CUSA tournament. Horizon League has that Wright State NKU rivalry that went hot last year. 2 teams are expected to do decently well again this year.
Yeah, and I actually have the third dark horse coming out of this one. The Flames of Illinois Chicago had one of the youngest teams in the country last year and got to 20 wins. They're led by Steve McLean and assistant coach Dee Brown of Illinois fame. They're a little bit older, more experienced. They got some size. I think it's going to be a 3-team race between those 3 mentioned. I got Illinois, Chicago.
Yeah, it was kind of a close one between those 3 teams for me as well. I ended up going with NKU, Northern Kentucky, mostly because they get Drew McDonald back, 6'7" player who led them to their first tournament appearance, and played pretty decently against Kentucky too. So with him in play, again, it's one of those situations you just have to find some players to fill in the holes around them. That's, again, with Drew McDonald, they're scoring 17 points a game, mind you. The other guys just kind of have to do their jobs, and they should be a pretty decent team in this conference. Move on to the Ivy League.
Yeah, I'm going with Harvard here. I think it's going to come down to the big rivals Harvard and Yale, but kind of a pattern for me during these has been, size and experiences. Those are three teams at this level. It's going to give people a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I think
dancing again.
I think Harvard is a team that's I think they're close to being top 25 before the year. Like, I know they didn't necessarily have the best year last year, 18-14, but they got some players coming back, and Seth Towns, Bryce Aiken, Chris Lewis. I mean, they're a solid team. I don't know how that's all going to play out, but I really like them this year. I think they're going to win the Ivy and maybe pull off some upsets. Maybe it won't be an upset at the point of the year when they're looking at doing that, but Harvard is a really good team. I'm going to go with them. Okay, let's go to the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference, the MAAC as we like to call it, and this is one where I don't know about you. I kind of have one team that I think will probably win it more than any other. Not too much competition after that.
I think there's two teams that I'm really thinking about: Iona and Rider. Rider had a big season last year. They improved a lot and returned quite a bit, but I'm going with Iona. They've been kind of running this conference for the past few years, past decade or so, really. I got that continuing. Ricky McGill, a senior guard that you trust with the ball. I got the Gales. Ricky
McGill. I'm adding that to the all-name team, but I am going with Rider. The 5 returning starters. They also have a 6-man and Frederick Scott, who had 13 points a game, too. So they have it coming from all over there. I'm going to go with Rider to win it. But you're right about Iona has been just absolutely running this conference for a long, long time now. Next is the MAC, the Mid-American Conference. Rob, who are you going with here?
I'm going with Buffalo here in the MAC. When you dominate a 4-seed in the NCAA tournament like they did, I'm probably going to pick you again this year. Nate Oates is continuing what Hurley started and building a juggernaut of this conference. C.J. Massenberg and Jeremy Harris back. I think the Bulls are going to dominate the MAC.
I think they are too. 3 returning starters back, including C.J. Massenberg, who had those 17 points per game, and Jeremy Harris, who had 15.5. That's enough for me to win the MAC. And like you said, tournament success. They've been kind of the mini dynasty of the MAC, and they actually have the tournament win to back it up too. So I'm going Buffalo as well. Now the MEAC. You mentioned Hampton is out, so this should be an interesting one since they've been doing pretty well the last couple of years too.
Yeah, this is pretty much a one-way ticket to the playing game in Dayton, and I got Norfolk State winning this. Another experienced team. Armani Branch is a double-double machine. I think they're gonna take it.
I'm going Bethune-Cookman. 3 returning starters. 2 guys who average over 14 points per game. Some key reserves coming back too. Last year they went 18-14. They can improve a little bit and get hot during the conference tournament. I think it's theirs for the taking. Next is the Missouri Valley Conference. As of note, last year Loyola had their dream tournament run, and heavy favorites again this year.
Yeah, I got the Ramblers again. I do think Illinois and possibly Northern that year to give them some competition, maybe even get a second team in. But, I mean, get to keep Porter Moser around. He's not going anywhere. Custer and Towns and Growager back. There's just too much I'm going Loyola as well. Kind of a no-brainer. Clayton Custer is the main reason why he's back, and he should be able to help dominate this conference. Now with another year under his belt. So, I mean, last year 13.2 points per game. You might be asked to do a little bit more. But he should be able to do it. It's a team that, 32-6 last year. I mean, this year should have a chance to be every bit as good, at least in terms of the regular season. We'll see, obviously, what the tournament holds later on in the year, but should be winning this conference yet again. NEC is up next, Rob. Yeah, St. Francis, the Pennsylvania St. Francis, the Red Flash, coming out of here. They got some good guard play and also have a 6'10" junior named Davidas Kuzavas, who's got a little bit of offensive game and can control the boards. I think that's going to be the difference in Pennsylvania St. Francis winning the conference.
I'm going Fairleigh Dickinson this one. 4 returning starters and a couple key reserves back. They're 13-18 last year, but I think this is a team that can take a huge step forward, especially in the NEC, where a lot of different teams have not as many returning starters. Some other teams have some huge problems. I think Fairleigh Dickinson can make the tournament this year. OVC is up next.
And I got Belmont with Rick Bird. They've really been a staple on top of this conference. They keep losing heartbreakers in the conference tournament for the regular season over the course of 18 games. I think they're definitely the best team and will continue to be so. Dylan Weinleiter and Kevin McLean, senior starters back. I think they'll run away with this in the regular season.
I think they will too. You mentioned they dominate this conference year in and year out. And key players are back, so it's Belmont's to lose this year. We'll go over to the Patriot League now, Rob.
His conference has really gotten pretty bad over the past couple years, hasn't it? It's gone from having like some 13 and 14 seeds to being playing games most of the time. But Cross Crusaders here, they're usually at the top of the conference. Lehigh and Bucknell is taking a step back. Lost a lot from last year. I got Holy Cross.
I'm sticking with Lehigh in this one. 16 and 14 last year. They did lose their point guard, Karan Ross, but I think they'll be able to fill in and win this one. You're right. It's taken a step back, but I think Lehigh can still kind of stay at the top there by winning the conference. SoCon is next for us, Rob. They do have a couple interesting teams in this one that I think are worthy of talking about.
Yeah, I don't know. You see Arlington coming in last. When you hire a 24-win coach or whatever like that, whatever they did, I think they're gonna end up in the bottom. But I got Georgia State. They made it to the tournament last year for the first time. I believe it was the first time since R.J. Hunter hit that big shot to beat Baylor. Weren't quite able to capitalize on it too much, but I think it's back on top here. They got 4 seniors and a junior in the starting lineup. I think this was their year to win the regular season and get back in the tournament and maybe even win a game.
All right, so that's the Sun Belt for us. So that I'm going to go Georgia State as well for Sun Belt. There you said everything pretty much you need to say, but when you return a guy who averages 21.2 points per game and DeMarcus Simons, I think you're pretty comfortable. So I'm going to go Georgia State too. Let's move back, backtrack in terms of alphabetical order. I don't know. Whatever ESPN had it as. The Southern Conference now, Rob.
Yeah, so you go SC versus SB. It's gone.
Yeah. Well, ESPN, they got a bunch of Syracuse people up there that don't actually study. They just got paid to play school. So.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a tight 14 race between Greensboro, Wofford, Furman, and East Tennessee State. I kind of want to pick Wofford just because of Fletcher McGee, but I'm going with UNC Greensboro. Wes Miller is one of the hottest up-and-coming coaches in the country. They get in your face for 40 minutes and don't let up. They got some good scoring with Francis Alonso and best defense in the league.
I'm actually going to go with Fletcher McGee. What they did to UNC last year is pretty cool. He's back 22 points a game. As you said, I think it's a couple good teams in this conference, but I think Wofford comes out on top. All right, Southland Conference next.
Are you skipping?
Yeah, I don't know why it is the way it is, but that's what it said.
I got Stephen F. Austin here. I mean, they dominated this conference about as much as anyone has. Kyle Tellers keep continuing what Brad Underwood had. They got 3 senior starters. I think the Lumberjacks are gonna crush it.
I think they are too. Running this conference, honestly, not too much to say here. Watch out for Devontae Fitzgerald, who should have Devontae Fitzgerald will have a good year for Stephen F. Austin and Shannon Bogues as well. Next is the SWAC. Again, don't understand why they're going in this order, but the SWAC is up next.
Yeah, I'm going Texas Southern. They lost Mike Davis to Detroit off season, but they did bring in Johnny Jones. Obviously, didn't have the greatest stint at LSU, but he was really good at North Texas for a while, and this is a big pickup for a SWAC school. They're always tested from their non-conference schedule. They have a 7'2" center in Trayvon Reed, who I assume most of the SWAC schools aren't going to have an answer for, so I got Texas Southern again.
I'm going Grambling State, a team that returns 3 starters, went 17-14 last year, which pretty good record for a SWAC team, if we're being honest. We see some of those teams being right around 500 when they make the tournament, so that's encouraging. I'll go Grambling State, even though Texas Southern is kind of a SWAC powerhouse. Next up is the Summit League. Sorry.
I'm going South Dakota State. They have a superstar in Mike Tomlin. You look at their roster, they only have 4 players that aren't freshmen, so not a whole lot of depth unless these freshmen are better than you'd expect the Jackrabbits to recruit, but at the end of the day, they have more Mike Doms than anyone else in the conference.
That's very true. I'm going South Dakota State too. Mike Dom's been there. He's done that. Going to get his team back to the tournament again, and will be tough this year. South Dakota poses some problems, but and IPFW as well, but South Dakota State will get the win. Now we're on to the WAC, Rob.
And I really think that this is the year that Grand Canyon finally breaks through. They've invested so much into that program, in getting a big-time coach, in getting a really nice venue. They've actually one of the more intimidating venues. It looks like a really cool atmosphere at their games. They had a lot of size for the team, including Michael Finke, a grad transfer from Illinois. So I think Grand Canyon breaks through and knocks off New Mexico State.
I think they did too. This being a cool story for a program that's newly kind of up to Division I the last couple of years and trying to, as you said, break their way through. They got Dan Marley coaching the team, which is always fun still, and they have the talent. You mentioned the transfers. A lot of people like Alessandro Lever as a great player who could maybe win Conference Player of the Year. Well, I don't know. I don't know if he'll be able to, but Grand Canyon is definitely, I think, the class of the WAC now. Them and New Mexico State, it'll be a battle until the end, but I think Grand Canyon takes it. All right, that's the last of the conferences we're going to do tonight. The rest we'll go over next week, go a little bit more in-depth with them since all of them should be 2-bid leagues. That'll include American, the A10, ACC, Big 12, Big East, Big 10, Mountain West, Pac-12, SEC, and WCC. So there's still a lot to be talked about. But for now, we'll move on to the college football stuff, as we usually do. And we'll start off with our teams of the week, Rob.
I'm going to LSU team, though. When we did our picks last week, I said that I might regret not taking them. And, of course, I did. They're definitely probably the best atmosphere in college football. And they really dominated Georgia for the couple games. Joe Burrow did what he had to do. That Tiger defense was all over UVA and got some big runs under Edwards-Helaire. Tigers. What makes me SEC was obviously still controlling their own destiny. Still a major player for the playoff considerations. Their big wins they've had so far.
Yeah, LSU, very surprising win, I guess. But you're right. You kind of said you were thinking about it. So they get the win, stay relevant. I'm going with a team that's going to kind of climb back into relevancy with this one, and that is Michigan. Always thought that they were a team that maybe couldn't win the big game under Harbaugh or stuff like that. They couldn't beat rivals. This is, I guess, technically a rivalry game, but not one that they count as much. They go and they beat Wisconsin 38-18. That's crazy. Shea Patterson has a pretty good game. I really like the way they run the ball now with Karan Higdon. They're a team that now they're talked about in terms of college football playoff, and all they have to do now is kind of finish out strong. They still have tough games against Penn State, and this week against Michigan State, who they seem to have a lot of troubles with, and we'll see how they do. But for now, they're back in the picture. That loss at Notre Dame to start the year doesn't look as bad after Notre Dame has kind of kept things steady. So Michigan's a team to watch out for. Rob, who's your second team?
Going with the Ducks. They lost a heartbreaker a couple weeks ago. Win Washington possibly, probably ending any hopes of a Pac-12 playoff team, which is pretty crazy because we're only halfway through the season. But C.J. Verdell ran in a game winner after holding Washington to a field goal, and the Ducks are looking pretty good. Obviously I don't think they're a playoff competitor because of their non-conference schedule, but could be looking at a Pac-12 championship.
Yeah, so Oregon gets the win over Washington. I'm going with another Pac-12 team with my second team of the week. That is USC, who gets the win over Colorado, undefeated Colorado, mind you, a team that maybe we didn't think was as real as the record said they were. But USC gets the win nonetheless, and now they're 4-2, looking to really kind of bounce back on their season after getting 2 early losses. We'll see what they can do. I still don't think they're anywhere close to where they want to be as a program. But with a freshman quarterback who's still learning, I think they can definitely do some damage. As for Colorado, I didn't think they were playoff contenders as is, but as you mentioned, Pac-12 really not looking good when their undefeated team loses, and their team that had the best chance at the college football playoff loses as well. So we'll see what happens on those fronts. We'll move on now to our upset teams of the week. Rob, who are you going with first?
I'll go with Iowa State after being 1-3 and looking like the season was going to be a wash for them. They bounced back with back-to-back big ranked wins, knocking off West Virginia 30-14. Their defense really impressed me. They held them to less than 2 yards per attempt, and Will Grier to just 100 passing yards the entire game. And to rub salt in the wounds, they played Taking Home Country Roads as their fans were storming the field. So Iowa State definitely building up a reputation of being kind of giant killers. They keep that going this week.
Yeah, definitely on that one. My first one is going to be Virginia over Miami, and the ACC kind of confusion behind Clemson just continues. That conference is looking really weak, and Clemson better not lose a game because that could leave things up in the air for them, as this is not going to help them out. But Miami only scores 13 points. They have a quarterback controversy. Malik Rozier and N'Kosi Perry can't figure it out. They only get Travis Homer 8 carries for 95 yards. And Virginia really slows the game down and scores 13 first-half points and then hangs on for the second half. So Virginia gets the upset win. Not sure how much longer that would be considered an upset. Both teams have 2 losses right now. Virginia, we'll see what they can do. Bronco Mendenhall is doing a very good job now after a tough first season there. So it's good to see that story coming through. Rob, who's your second team?
And Michigan State, another team that weeks ago looked like they might have been written for dead. They go into State College into Happy Valley and knock off Penn State. The work he hit Felton Davis for a touchdown pass with I forget not many seconds left late in the game. Right on the drive, Penn State, their defense backs dropped a would-be interception that hit him right in the hands. But Michigan State got it done when it needed to. Their defense was pretty much the epitome of solid bend but don't break, and Adams Big Ten East.
My second team, I'm going with Tennessee. Not really sure how good Auburn is anymore. Their big win over Washington. Washington's lost their second game now. But they're 4-3 and 1-3 in the SEC, and Tennessee was in the midst of a rebuilding year. But I guess they have looked decent at times, but still in the midst of a rebuilding year. Props to Jarrett Guarantano. He went for 328 yards, 2 touchdowns, and Jeremy Pruitt for really getting this team to play and beat Auburn on the road. I don't honestly know what to say. I don't like Auburn. I think is kind of maybe in a little bit of a disaster mode at 4-3 now. I don't know. Every time they get around this record, Gus Malzahn has job security questions. I don't know if that'll be the case after last year playing pretty well. But Tennessee likely ahead of schedule or ahead of where a lot of people thought they would be, beating Auburn on the road. Either way, whether Auburn's great or not. So Tennessee is my second upset team of the week. All right, we are going to now go to our picks for this week. Last week was pretty eventful. This week we have College Game Day in Pullman, so a lot of different things are going on there. And we will start off with our upset pick of the week, Rob.
I got on Nebraska. Their first one. Minnesota had a good team on the road, but they came up short. Very draining game. Still not a team that I really like that much. They got blown out by Maryland earlier this season. They're owned in Big Ten. Nebraska's lost a lot of close games. They're bound to win one sooner or later. I think this is going to be it.
Going with Nebraska to win their first game. They did lose that heartbreaker against Northwestern with Clayton Thorson throwing for so many yards. I'm actually going to go Minnesota. Nebraska, I think, is I don't know. Maybe they have to learn how to win. Actually, I did go with Nebraska, so I'm going to go Nebraska, actually. Yeah, I'm going to go Nebraska. This is a tough one. Minnesota does have its two best players out, Antoine Winfield Jr., Rodney Smith at running back. It's in Lincoln. I don't know. This is an awful game, but I'll go Nebraska too. Now that you say that, my upset pick of the week is going to be Old Dominion over Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky is favored in this game by about 4 points. A team that's not as good as the days where they were running this conference. Old Dominion, not as good as maybe not as bad as we thought to start the season. Maybe not as good as we thought after they beat Virginia Tech, but they're a decent team and maybe can go into Western Kentucky and pull off the upset.
I don't know. That still is their lone win on the season. It's really crazy. It's just one way. Home team, Western Kentucky.
All right, that will be our upset pick. We'll now go on to our regular picks for the week. Let's start off early in the week. We'll go Stanford at Arizona State.
I got Stanford with Costello and Arcega-Whiteside. Still like the talent of this team, although I'm starting to believe in them less and less with each passing loss.
Yeah, I'm going with Stanford too. Not a lot of confidence here. But get back on track and stay with those two losses. This could be a season that was similar to last year when they finished the season, I think, like 9-5 at the end of it or whatever. So Stanford gets this win. We'll see what goes on down the stretch. Colorado State at Boise State.
Boise State's going to blow them out.
I think Boise too, but Colorado State does have a decent passing attack to watch out for. Moving on to Saturday, we'll start this day off with the big brother versus little brother, number 6 Michigan at number 24 Michigan State.
Yeah, on the road, I think little brother's actually going to get it done. I think the Wolverines are going to win. They got a big primetime win, which everyone said that Jim Harbaugh couldn't last year. Really like obviously Shea Patterson, but Karateka's running the ball really well. So I got Michigan on the road.
Going Michigan too. Their offense seems to be doing enough to win some games. I mean, scoring 38 points is nice. The defense is starting to come together too. Michigan State, such an up and down team. I don't think I can trust them by picking them. I'm going to go Michigan, which really makes things interesting going down the stretch when they have those games, as we said, with Penn State and Ohio State later on in the year. Oklahoma is number 9 versus TCU.
Yeah, no, after firing Stoops, the defensive coordinator, Oklahoma, they got a good thing going because TCU's offense is about as bad as you can ask for in Division One. I think Sean Robinson's still going to try to be their starting quarterback. He had a very, very rough outing against Texas Tech. I think even Oklahoma's soft defense will be able to slow him down, and Kyler Murray will make the plays and Oklahoma will roll. I
think so too. We mentioned TCU not being as good as people thought. They ended up losing last week. Kind of got a lot of attention for it because it was a weekday game with Texas Tech. So Oklahoma firing their defensive coordinator couldn't make things worse. I refuse to believe that. I'm going to go Oklahoma beating TCU in this one too. Maryland at number 19 Iowa.
I got Iowa here. They're really flying under the radar, but Nate Sandler's playing really well for them. Penning's always a tough place to go get a win. I think Hawkeyes hold at home.
I think they did too. Maryland has surprised me this year with how well they have played, but I think the physicality of Iowa will win out in this one. Undefeated number 20 Cincinnati Bearcats visit Temple in Philadelphia.
I got the Owls here. They had a disastrous start to the season, but since then they pulled it back together. Down 3-1. Since I haven't played anyone even remotely close to Temple's talent level, which is what their first 6 games were like. So I got the Owls at home.
I think I got them too. It's Cincinnati is, you're right, they haven't played anyone. It's hard to believe in a team that doesn't play anyone at this point, but they've had to go late into the game to beat Ohio, and I mean at that rate, Ohio's not a bad team, mind you, but I don't think they're going to be able to go on the road and beat Temple. This is one that might help decide the MAC later on in the year, but we'll pick it now. Buffalo, who is 6-1 now, at Toledo.
Yeah, I got Buffalo here on the road. I think they're the class this year. Tyree Jackson, one of the best quarterbacks in that conference. I think they go into the Glass Bowl and they'll win.
I think they did too. Buffalo's a really good team. A lot of people mention them as, if things go their way, a.k.a. Boise State loses a couple games and other teams do, and Buffalo goes undefeated, they could get a New Year's Six Bowl. Didn't happen, but they're a solid team. I think Buffalo wins this, probably wins the MAC too. Let's move on to Auburn, who's been struggling at Ole Miss.
I'm going with the Rebels here. Ole Miss, they're definitely under the radar in the SEC, but they are sitting at 5-2. Remember, they had that beatdown of Texas Tech week 1, which is looking better and better. Jordan Ta'amu is an absolute stud, and A.J. Brown, I think Neil was.
This is an interesting matchup in terms of Auburn's offense, which has been kind of stagnant, versus Ole Miss's defense, which is not very good. I'll go Auburn. Not very high on either team. Jordan Ta'amu, I think, will do pretty well, but I think Auburn will win, maybe by a field goal. Two non-traditional powers in the ACC in terms of football. Virginia at Duke.
Yeah, I got Duke here at home. They're still sitting at 5-1, pretty good. Virginia had a nice win last year, but I think Duke's it's kind of weird. Duke's was a step up from what Miami was, so the Blue Devils are going to get the win.
Going Duke too. Daniel Jones actually has one of the best deep balls in the college football right now. I think it is the best in terms of catchable balls he's thrown deep, according to Pro Football Focus College. They're a pretty good team. I know they've had a couple losses here and there, but in the ACC they might be able to pick up a few more wins than people thought this year. So I'm going to go Duke too. Move on down to the SEC. Number 1 Alabama at Tennessee after their big upset.
Yeah, and Alabama fans will thank them for knocking off Auburn before going into Nyland and beating them down. Tua's knee is kind of a concern, but I don't really expect him to even play past halftime. Alabama's going to blow him out. Yeah,
Alabama wins big. I guess a little bit concerning Tua with the knee, and he also completed fewer than 60% of his passes for the first time ever. Big shocker there that's happening, but Tua's fine. Tennessee, I still will hold true to that. I don't think they're very good. Might make a bowl game this year though, but they will not win this one.
Hot take: Alabama could beat them even with Jalen Hurts.
Man, they might be able to beat them with the scout team quarterback and let the rest of the team just go after it. I don't know. Let's go to the undefeated matchup this week. We have number 16 NC State at number 3 Clemson. NC State's played Clemson close the last couple of years.
Yeah, they have, and they're semi-untested. They have a couple decent wins. Really wish that West Virginia game would have happened. That would have been a really good game. They probably wouldn't have got the attention it deserved at the time, but to me, this strikes me as the kind of game that NC State's probably going to have some sort of crazy late-game meltdown and lose a heartbreaker. Memorial Stadium's just going to be too much. I think Clemson, even with, if they do have inconsistent quarterback play, I think their defense will carry them.
Yeah, I think it's close again, but like you said, I think either Clemson gets like a game-winning field or NC State has one of those meltdowns or something. The Clemson talent is just too good. I do like Ryan Finley, but he's going to be going up against that tough defense. Only way NC State, I think, has a chance of winning is if they can force Trevor Lawrence into turnovers. I don't think he'll do it enough, so I'm going to go Clemson too. Now, the 1-loss Colorado team up against the 2-loss Washington team after last week.
Yeah, I got the Huskies. I mean, it's kind of a bounce back for both teams. Typically with Peterson, they've always been good coming off of a loss. So I think Browning and Gaskin are going to be a little too much. They'll control the clock and beat Colorado.
Washington for me too. Defense is really good. I think that won't change anything. I do have a stiff test going up against Steven Montez, and Chenault at wide receiver. So, but I think they rise to the challenge and get the win. Number 18, Penn State, after their loss to Michigan State, is traveling to Indiana.
Yeah, and Penn State, maybe not as good as people thought. Indiana's not terrible, but this is the kind of game that Penn State and Franklin have always, dominated. I think they'll be kind of angry coming off a loss. I think they'll beat Indiana pretty badly.
Yeah, Indiana has played a couple teams close this year, but I don't think they're a team that anyone's really worried about in terms of a team like Penn State. Maybe not, but definitely stay focused after a loss. But they should be able to get the win. The offense should be able to get it done. The defense should be able to just hold together and help get the win too. Two teams that'll be kind of fighting for bowl contention here: Wake Forest and Florida State, both at 3-3 at this point in the season.
Yeah, neither team I have a whole lot of faith in. I'm going Florida State. I think the overall talent levels are just a lot higher, and they're at home.
I'm the same way. Talent level is what I'm going with, and they have looked at least a little better than they did to start the year, so I'll get Florida State. Memphis at Missouri. Memphis almost beat UCF. Clock expired. They ran a dumb play and threw a pass underneath the first down marker. Otherwise, they would have had a chance for a game-winning field goal. And they traveled to Missouri this week.
Yeah, coming off a heartbreaker like that, I think obviously they'll get up for this. This is the biggest game for them in terms of perception of getting a chance to beat an SEC team. But I got Missouri. That passing game with Drew Lock is just going to be too much. Memphis had a good performance against UCF, but this is still the same team that got blown out by Tulane and lost to Navy. Yeah,
Drew Lock will have a good day after having to face Alabama. That'll be nice. Drew Lock will win the game for Missouri, get them to above 500 for the year, and maybe back on track for a good season. We'll see what happens down here. Number 22, Mississippi State at number 5, LSU.
I'm going LSU here. Not going to pick against them at home twice in a row. I think their defense is so nasty. They're gonna be in Fitzgerald's face. I don't think he's learned how to throw the ball since the last couple weeks. And Burrow, that offense, are going to keep doing just about as much as they need to get the wins. Low scoring game, but Tigers come out on top.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. We usually talk about LSU play or quarterbacks being able to complete passes to help the offense. It's kind of Nick Fitzgerald. It's on him. The run will probably be stopped. He's going to have to complete those passes. I don't think he'll be able to. Look for Devin White to be all over the field for LSU. I think LSU wins one. Number 10, UCF at East Carolina. They did have a scare last week, but it is East Carolina. It's the Boneyard. Pretty tough place.
Yeah, I don't think the Boneyard's going to be enough to make this one a game, though.
I don't think it is either. So UCF continues their undefeated season. Let's go to number 2, Ohio State at Purdue.
This one I kind of gave a little bit of pause to. Ohio State's defense, obviously, they've given up a lot of big plays, and between Blau and Rondale Moore, Purdue's definitely more than capable of making them, but I think Ohio State, they're going to be on kind of high alert after not performing real well last week. Maybe a close game, at least for half, high scoring, but Ohio State's going to pull away.
I was thinking the same thing. Halftime, the score could be just about anything. Second half, Ohio State will be able to take over. They really, I think, at some points need to rely on the running game a little bit more than they have. J.K. Dobbins and Mike Weber are a great duo. I know Dwayne Haskins is drawing NFL draft buzz and everything, but at the same time, those two guys both have rushed for 1,000 yards over the last 2 seasons, so that's something they can definitely do against Purdue, get that going. Ohio State wins.
Yeah, I think it'll be more of their passing game, though. Purdue's secondary has been sketchy at best this year. They are pretty decent covering the run, but generally speaking, when teams lose to Eastern Michigan, I think they probably lose to Ohio State that same season as well.
I wonder what the stats on that say. How many times has a team beaten Eastern Michigan, or has beat Eastern or lost to Eastern Michigan, but also beat Ohio State or put up a good game? That'd be something to cross check. We'll move on. Vanderbilt at number 14, Kentucky.
I got Kentucky here. They'll be real focused, having an extra week to think about that close loss to A&M. Hopefully they'll give Benny Snell the ball more than with 12 times or however many carries he got against A&M, and Kentucky's gonna get another win streak started.
Yeah, the defense is just too good to let this one be a loss, in my opinion. The offense, you're right. It's kind of, if they're winning the game, they get Benny Snell the ball, he does well. If they're losing the game, they seemingly panic, get him 12 carries. They need to find a way to get him the ball even when they're losing. Don't desert the game plan when you're only down 7 points. And also make sure Terry Wilson can help convert on key third downs with his arms or his legs, honestly. He can definitely do both. So Kentucky wins. We'll see what that does to the ranking after the week, with being ranked 14. That's kind of an interesting spot, but they do get the win over Vanderbilt. Let's go to, and this one is a little bit of an interesting one, at least to me. North Texas at UAB, two teams that I think are pretty decent and interesting from the CUSA.
Yeah, could decide the West Division. But I'm going with UAB. I think they got a better defense, and our home. I think at this stage, if we're going to picks, I'd have the Blazers winning that conference.
I'll go North Texas. They're a team that's been playing pretty well. Mason Fines is a good quarterback. I think they can get the win in this one, and as you said, could decide the division. We'll see what happens with that. And honestly, I think Mason Fine is the difference here. We'll see if they can get the job done. Let's go USC at Utah.
I got Utah. They're a team that's flying under the radar. I think a win here probably get them back in the rankings. 2 straight blowout wins over Arizona and Stanford. I think they got one of the best defenses in the Pac-12. So I got the Utes.
I'll go USC. I kind of like the way they're playing lately. Isn't always pretty. Quarterback play isn't the greatest yet, as I said, with Daniels at quarterback as a freshman. But I'll go USC to win this one. It is on the road, but I think they just have to get some momentum going even more to keep that going. Maybe help win the South. Who knows? With Colorado losing, who knows what's going to happen there. We'll go to Arizona at UCLA. UCLA got their first win last week over Cal and actually played really well. Arizona still trying to find themselves with Khalil Tate and Kevin Sumlin this year.
Yeah, Khalil Tate benched last week, and it's actually going to be Rick Rodriguez's son starting at quarterback.
Yeah.
So I generally try to avoid picking teams starting a quarterback who is related to the coach that they fired last year. So I got UCLA at home, and I really hope they won. I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to be going out of my way to watch this one.
No, definitely not. UCLA wins this one, and a Pac-12 South, who knows? Maybe they can pick up a couple more wins before the year's over, too. Let's go to our game day game now. This is the first time ever. The flag's been there forever. You might have seen Old Crimson in the background, but at College Game Day. But Game Day will be there for the first time. It is number 12 Oregon at number 25 Washington State. Rob, who are you going with?
I'm picking the Ducks here, although I really like Mike Leach and Gardner Minshew. I think Oregon's playing at a higher level right now. Herbert's showing everyone that he deserves to be a top 5 pick next year for draft pick. And their defense got stops when they needed to. I think their defense especially is going to be that's their biggest advantage when comparing these teams. I got the Ducks close one on the road.
Yeah, I've Oregon too. Watch the quarterback play in this matchup, man. You said it. Gardner Minshew, Justin Herbert, those guys will be throwing it all across the yard. Maybe not the specific key to the game, but it's going to be fun to watch either way. But I think Oregon is able to get the win and keep the faint Pac-12 college football playoff hopes alive. I mean, I don't even know, like less than 5% chance maybe that they need everything to go right ahead of them in the standings, but at least get a chance for a decent win here. I think Herbert's able to lead them to victory, but a very, very close game, as you said, in Pullman. He will be, I don't know if you saw this, already has issued a state of emergency for Saturday because of how many people will be at the game and how many people will be down at game day. So that is kind of crazy and awesome for such a small town up there.
Yeah, do you see the video of their fans like greeting the game day crew that started setting up?
Yeah, that was crazy. All right, that takes us to the game day guest picker. It's new. It's someone probably that they've never done before. Let's go. Rob, who do you got?
This is the most confident I felt in the game day guest picker all season. I don't know the guy's name or who he is exactly, but the guy who first started bringing Old Crimson, I think they're going to pull him out. He's a big reason why they're going to Pullman. I think that's going to be a storyline they're going to be talking about a whole lot, the history of that flag. It's only appropriate that they bring him out as a guest picker.
Does that mean they need to find a guest flag holder for when he's on the stage too, or does he bring the flag with him on stage?
I just assumed he would bring it with him.
Block the view of everyone behind him. That'd be great. I think your guy is probably going to be the guy on second thing. I did make my pick first, but on a sense of ESPN loves this guy, or at least they did last year, and kind of forgot about him. And I really do think they would jump at the opportunity to get this guy back on any type of platform. LeVar Ball went to Washington State, played basketball, then tried to have his football career with the Jets, where we almost made it as a tight end. Now more famously for having his sons and where they've gone. I think that's... I mean, it would be very entertaining. I think the College Game Day has a weird thing of sometimes they go with the emotional one or the sensible one in terms of like the old Crimson flag thing, and sometimes they just go off the wall bonkers and get someone like LeVar Ball or a.k.a. the Chainsmokers like last week, but not as much bonkers.
The Chainsmokers are the greatest guest pickers of all time.
Yeah. I mean, that was their second time too, right? What, the 2 years ago they were on again?
Yeah.
But I'll go LeVar Ball. I think if they go off the wall, they want some character. That's where they're going to go. People love him, people hate him, but it should be fun one up there in Pullman. Is there anyone else you considered, Rob?
Yeah, here's the thing about LeVar Ball. He's actually coaching a game in Poland because he's doing that big baller team USA or whatever tour of Europe.
That is unfortunate.
It'll make the logistics a little tough there. I just thought I'd mention that. The other pick that I had, the one that I thought about was Drew Bledsoe, the biggest icon in Washington State football history. He still lives. I think he lives in Spokane, which is just down the road. If they're going with a former player, I think it's got to be him.
Yeah, I guess I'll have to change my LeVar Ball pick then. Forgot he was now coaching and that stuff. And maybe he doesn't want to be in the public eye because he does owe people money from the JBA league he tried to start too. But I'll definitely change that. Drew Bledsoe is one I thought about too. I can't imagine they would go with Ryan Leaf with all his legal trouble. I know he's kind of cleaned himself up, but I think that would be the only other guy they consider as a former player. I don't really know anyone else who would really be valuable out of Washington State other than those two quarterbacks, really.
Yeah, isn't he like a motivational speaker now?
I think he is. Like yeah, he warns people to not become a guy who yells at cameras and stuff, so that's fun.
Yeah, good for him for getting his life together, but I wouldn't. I think I even saw something where like Kirk Herbstreit commented on one of his tweets, like quoted it and said like, "Good to see you turn it around, buddy," or something like that. So maybe they do bring him out, but I would think that was a bit of a long shot. Unfortunately, the other like most famous alumni they have, Paul Allen, passed away earlier this week.
Yeah.
He was actually one of the people that I was kind of looking at considering, but obviously that won't happen now. Yeah.
I guess my pick is going to change. I'll take Ryan Leaf. I'll go with the long shot here to not take anyone else's picks or ideas. Don't know if it's going to happen, but ESPN did have them on their network a couple years ago to promote his book. I don't know what the correlation is with that, but if they're willing to do that like 6 months after he got out of jail or something like that or got off of his charges, then why not do it now after 6 months of being a motivational speaker? But I do like your pick a lot. Wish LeVar Ball was free maybe, but that's okay. Love it when they go to these small towns or these campuses that haven't had a chance to have game day because you get something new, or at least we hope. But yeah, I think that wraps it up for us. Rob, any final thoughts?
I'll think I'm looking forward to this game day more than I have for anyone in a while.
Yeah, me too. They will be up bright and early for this one. Hoping to see a good game, too. We'll see if Washington State can maybe stick with and maybe pull off an upset. So that's our show for the week. Again, next week we will be doing college basketball, the major conferences, at least the two bid leagues that we expect. And we will go recap all the games this week, preview the games for the week after, and keep everyone informed of all the stuff going on around college football and college basketball. For now, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.